What's up, B Squad? It is your boy JB, and I am here today with the review for Sistas on BET Season 5, Episode 3, titled No Stress, you guys. So, before we just go ahead and get into Sistas, be sure to, if you guys are watching this video or any other on the channel, and you guys aren't subscribed to my channel yet, why are we still going on this date every single week? Do me that favor by taking me out. Stop taking me out on a date. Do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, turning on your post notifications, and sharing the video. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let's discuss Sistas on BET, shall we? All right, you guys. So this episode, it wasn't a bad episode. I think there was a lot of scenes that we could have done without. So this episode, we pick up where we left off. And you guys remember in the last episode that Danny found Andy and Gary having sex. This is one of those scenes where we could have cut out a lot of the dialogue because it was just so much dialogue with Danny. Because Danny wanted to make so many sexual references to Andy and Gary having sex, how big Gary's dick is. It was just a lot of stuff with Danny. Instead of Danny just basically saying what needed to be said, right? Because you guys remember that Gary ran into the bathroom butt ass naked, right? And Danny is telling Andy that Gary got to go. She's like, no, why? Instead of her just straight out coming up at that time and saying it's because of Sabrina, she just had to have that long ass dialogue in those, those quirks that Danny does. It's just, so she eventually does tell Andy that she has not heard from Sabrina, right? So then we move over to Calvin. So Calvin went down to the gay bar. He's talking to Chris. And Chris is like, I'm so sorry. He's like, what are you sorry about? He asked him, like, what are you doing down here with all these queens? I mean, doesn't Calvin come here quite often? But okay, girlfriend. So Chris tells Calvin about the robbery and the fact that Maurice is locked up, right? And that Q flipped on him and Sabrina. Flipped on him, and that's the reason why he's there, right? So Calvin says that he's finna go to the house and kick Q out. I'm like, good luck with that one. Sir, we remember when Jacoby punched you and you and fell out. Like, we remember that. We remember you with Bayo. You and Bayo. Neither you and Bayo could fight, but we remember that. So we then see Andy. So Andy went into the bathroom and she told Gary that he has to go, right? He's like, well, can I see you later? I was like, oh, God. So she told him, you got to go, Gary, because it has something to do with Sabrina. So he ended up leaving, right? So then we move back over to Calvin. So Calvin went back home. I want Tyler to explain one thing to me about this situation with Q. Because none of this makes sense to me. This situation right here is really stupid. Because Q is in Maurice's bed with a woman, right? Mind you, Chris said he was going to go with Calvin because of the situation. We all know that Calvin can't fight, right? So, Q, like I said, Q was in the bed with a woman. I'm finna jump the shark just a little bit, right? Because I'm finna talk about the preview from next week's episode where Q talking about free rent. Your name ain't on this lease. You don't have a job. This is Maurice's apartment. So, unless you finna foot Maurice's half of the rent, and they're not, I mean, they might accept. Like, unless you finna foot Maurice's half of the rent, you're squatting. Like, like, free rent? So you think that shit now? So he said free rent in the preview of next week's episode. How is it gonna be free rent and Calvin pays half of the rent with Maurice? That means that if Maurice does not pay his portion of the rent, then that means your ass gonna be on said street, and that was a condition of your probation, your parole, whatever the hell it is. Tyler, that shit didn't make any sense to me. Let's pause here, you guys, and let's move forward. So we see Andy and Danny, they're still talking, right? So Danny is talking about the fact, Andy is talking about the fact that she called some of her contacts, but she hasn't heard back from him. And Danny was like, you don't know that because you were too busy having sex with Gary. So Andy went to go check her phone, and lo and behold, her contact did call her back. So she called the contact back, told her to call her back as soon as she got the message, right? So Calvin and Q, right? Calvin got home and asked Q if he set up Maurice. And Maurice is not Maurice, but Q was like, why would he do that? That is a great fucking question. Why would Q do that? Like, oh god. So like I said, this episode wasn't like horrible, but it's just a lot of holes when you think it from a logical standpoint, right? So Calvin tells him to get out, right? So these two get into a fight with each other. Now, mind you, at one point, Q was just pop, pop, punching Calvin in the face. When Calvin got up, he ain't had no blood coming from his mouth. He didn't have a bruised eye, a swollen eye. I was like, what kind of fight did y'all get into? Tyler, where's the special effects makeup artist at? Like, cause they ain't get into no fight, and they were throwing punches at one another. But okay, Tyler, I'm gonna let you have that one. I'm gonna let it go. So Chris eventually broke it up, right? So then we move back over to Andy and Danny, right? So Andy tells Danny that Sabrina was arrested and that this is federal, right? And we all know Andy's a divorce attorney, so Andy can't really help with this situation, right? So Andy also tells her that they can't do anything for Sabrina because Sabrina hasn't saw a judge at this point, right? Because you guys do, because you, this is one thing that I will say Tyler did get right, because you can't get out of jail until you go before a judge for your arraignment. And then that's where, at the arraignment, that's where your judge gives you, grants you bail or no bail, right? So she was right about, so Tyler got that on the money. So Danny wanted to call up Logan, and Andy was like, no, don't do that, because we don't know what he has or what he doesn't have. And I was like, that's smart. Let's not call him up. That's smart. I get that. I definitely got that. This review might not be long at all, because this episode, like I said, the episode wasn't like horrible, but it was just a lot of things in here we could have done without. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, we definitely could have done without all the sex talk from Danny, then the shit with Calvin and Q. It doesn't make sense to me why not Calvin, but why Q thinks he's gonna have free rent. You don't have a job. This ain't your apartment. Your name ain't on this lease. So Maurice could say there's somebody in my apartment that is not on my lease, and the landlord will say, get out, because that would violate his lease, right? Okay, Tyler, let's pause here, you guys. Let's move forward. You guys, next up, let's talk about Fatima, right? Now, when it comes to Fatima and it comes to Zach, you guys know how I feel about Zach and Fatima. You guys know I'm all here for Zach and Fatima. But there are things that I just don't like when it comes to Fatima and Zach. And more specifically is really just Fatima. I love how ride or die Fatima is, right? But Fatima is too, and it kind of makes sense when she tells us about, the more that we find out about Fatima, it makes sense, but I just hate how how violent she is. Like, we loved it when she fought Jasmine and her homegirls. We loved it when she did it to Hayden, but it's excessive at this point, right? It's a negative stereotype against black women, and I don't like that. So she's getting ready to go to the gym and and she's gonna go to work from the gym. So Zach wants to talk about the situation that happened with Karen the night before. Fatima, however, doesn't want to talk about it. And Zach was like, why is it that when you want to talk about Karen, we got to talk about it, but when I want to talk about Karen, you don't want to talk about her, right? So then we find, I don't know if you guys saw the trailer for what's coming this season, but so if you don't know, at some point in this season, Eva Marcel is going to make an appearance as her character from All the Queen's Men, where she plays Madam. Now, I've never really watched All the Queen's Men, so I don't know too much about that show. I do want to talk about Zatima. So I haven't finished Zatima. That's why I haven't reviewed it yet, because I haven't finished it. But I know that y'all told me in the comments section, and I got a DM about this, that y'all say Zatima is in a different universe. But how? Now again, don't spoil it for me, you guys. Don't tell me what happened in episode 8, 9, and 10. I did see a picture where Zach looked like he was proposing to Fatima in Zatima. Now, only thing you can say is, you can say something about that. Was he proposing to her? Well, no, don't even say nothing about that. I saw that, so I kind of think he proposed to her. I don't know if he did or didn't, but if he proposed to her, then that would separate them in different dimensions. But in Sistas and Fatima, so far from what I'm seeing, because like I said, I haven't finished Fatima, it looks like it's in the same parallel because in this show, Sistas, we have Deja. Fatima doesn't like Deja. Now, the last episode I saw Fatima where Zach was at that party with his boys and Deja was dancing on him. Well, I guess maybe it isn't. I don't know. I digress. I digress, right? So yeah, we know Madam is her cousin, so Zach is gonna be introduced to Madam, right? So Calvin called up Danny. He told her a situation with Q, how Q set up Maurice, right? And she tells him that Andy is on the job, although Andy is a divorce attorney, but Andy's on the job, right? So then Preston calls her. I could have done without this as well. Preston called her wanting to have dinner with her, but I was like, Preston, didn't you just tell her that you was gonna go and ask that woman that you used to be with to marry you, but you want to have dinner with Danny? I was with Danny. Get off my line, Preston. Get off of my line. Oh, God, you guys. Let's pause here and let's move forward. All right, you guys. So Karen is with her mama, right? So Karen's mom is asking her how is she. She's good and she's not feeling stressed, right? So her mom says, well, you know what? We need to talk about this situation with the accountant. He's not an accountant. How does Karen have an accent but her mama don't? How does Karen have that terrible country accent but her mama don't have it? And no shade to her mama, but her mama look like a lesbian. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be shady, but her mama I thought her mama was gay. So Karen's talking about how she dreamt that Zach came by. Her mama's like, it wasn't a dream, but I told him that he needed to go. So then her mama tells Karen that she feels like she should write him a letter, and him and Aaron a letter, have them both over so that she could read it to them about her feelings. I was like, girl, what? Karen don't know what her feelings are. Karen, oh God, Karen. You guys know how I feel about Karen. I don't hate Karen, but Karen is annoying. Karen is so damn annoying. Tyler, like I said last week's review, please don't let Karen be pregnant for 3 seasons. Please let Karen have this baby soon. So then we see Andy, right? So Andy is the next morning. She's telling Danny that Sabrina is still in jail, but they haven't charged her at this point, and she has us all judged. So they still really can't do anything for her, but she's going to reach out. She's reached out to her contacts, and nobody's going to help her. So she's going to reach out to Robin. Now, I don't know what kind of attorney Robin is. Now, from the way Robin has been talking, it sounds like Robin is a business attorney, but I could be wrong. I don't know. We don't care, right? But Andy also does tell Danny that they got Maurice on tape talking about what they did. And I'm like, any judge who would listen to that confession would know that he was being facetious when he did it. Like, he was clearly being facetious, but okay. We're in Tyler Perry's world, but let's go off, right? So Zach and Fatima, they went to the gym, right? And guess who was at the gym? Deja. So she's telling Zach about some of the issues going on at the place that she's at. And Fatima's like, girl, if I find out that you're doing any of this shit so that my man can come over there, it's going to be me and you. I'm like, see, here we go with the volatile side of Fatima. Why does Fatima have to be so volatile? I don't get it, right? So Aaron came into the gym and he wanted to have a conversation with Zach about Karen and not stressing Karen out. Karen stresses Karen out. Karen stresses me out. Karen annoys, oh God, we not gonna deal with Karen. I can't with Karen. I can't with Karen. So at the end of the episode, Zach and Fatima, they went back and forth. They got into an argument with each other. And I actually tuned out of there with that argument with Zach and Fatima. You guys, I got to keep it real with you. I stopped listening at a certain point in time because I was like, they're repeating themselves. And you guys know how I feel about Tyler Perry and the repetitive dialogue. I tune out. But I want you guys to drop down in the comment section and please let me know what you guys thought about this episode of Sistas. Like I said, it really wasn't a bad episode. It was actually a really good episode. I think, like I said, if we just had left out if some of the dialogue would have been left out, it would have been a really good episode for me, because in this episode, Danny told Andy about Sabrina. So they know that Sabrina's in jail. They know that Maurice quote unquote confessed. Calvin confessed, confronted Q. Karen's mama want her to sit down and have a conversation with Zach and Aaron. I agree with that, but I don't know if it's gonna work because Karen is indecisive on what she wants. Karen doesn't know what she wants. So overall, it really was a good episode. It was just some things in there that just annoyed me. Like I said, that repetitive dialogue, and then the other thing that annoyed me is the preview for next week's episode with Q thinking he got free rent. Free rent. Nigga, how? But that's it, you guys. Let me know, like I said, let me know what you guys thought about it in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, turn your post notifications, share the video, subscribe to the channel, thumbs it up. I know I probably repeated that, but I'll catch you guys in the next one, you guys.